Hey, everybody. It's Kim Love Jones here. I promised that I was going to get on every day that I could in the month of April, and I am here. I am here. And I just want to talk about it might not have been the way that we thought it should be, but it was necessary to go down the way that it was supposed to go down in our lives. I was sitting and thinking about my own life, right? And thinking about the different things that have happened in my life, right? The things that I have experienced that I thought in my own mind was, really going to take me out. I was, I went through so much in my life, right? That, that I never saw it. I never ever saw it as a as a great move, right? Every time I felt hurt, disappointed, frustrated, aggravated about things that were going on in my life, what I began to realize is that something better was coming. Um, I thought that the end of something was the end of was the end of how I would function, and it's not. What I've learned and what I'm learning is that the end was just a new beginning. So they left you, right? They left you. They broke your heart. They didn't think that you were enough. You felt bad about who you were. You struggled with it. You lamented over them being in your life and now they're not, right? You lamented over the fact that you had built so much up. You didn't want to walk away from it, but you knew that it wasn't serving you, right? When I think about this, right, I think about the fact that it was a setup. It really wasn't a setback. I tell people this often, the only L that I have ever taken was a lesson, not a loss. And a lot of people don't understand that as their truth. I often talk about Psalm 119 and 71. I often talk about that. And the reason why I talk about Psalm 119 and 71 is because it was through the affliction that I learned that I learned God's statutes. I learned who I needed to be. It was when I went through the toughest times in my life that I became better, that things began to shift and change for me. It was during that time, I gotta put my phone on do not disturb. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me 1 second. It was during that time that I went through the toughest times in my life that I began to realize that after that tough time, I got better. I remember I was in a car accident, and for the life of me, like at the time, I felt like I was okay. I didn't know what was happening in my body, right? I didn't know that when I was in a car accident that it was going to have me to the point that at some point I wouldn't be able to walk. Um, People who are very close to me know the situation and the circumstance and the things that I've gone through. And I remember crying and because I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain. I couldn't, function. I had to get my nieces and everybody to come over and sit with me. Hey, I see y'all. Say hello, say hello. I had to get my nieces to come over and they helped me. And I was in this period of time in my life, right? Where I began to realize like, that I wasn't going to be able to function the same way that I had been functioning. Like my whole life had changed. I remember being in a state of depression behind that. I remember feeling low because of that, right? And I didn't feel good about myself. I couldn't take my son to his baseball games, my baby boy, because my oldest son was, older and he was doing his own thing at that particular time. He was a teenager. But my baby boy, he was still playing baseball and doing things, and I couldn't go to his games. I couldn't do it. And I was in prayer about this thing, and I was asking God. I said, God, why is this happening to me? That was a question that I asked. With tears in my eyes, I'm too young for this. I can't even walk anymore. This is crazy, right? But what I didn't know was that my pain was for my purpose. I didn't realize that the things that I had experienced in my life, even up until that point, was for my purpose. It was for me to grow me up. It was to help me to become a better person, right? Because prior to the car accident, I was hanging out with my friends after work. We was in the city. We was at One Fish, Two Fish. We was at Under the Stairs. We was everywhere. We thought we would go uptown to Harlem. We were having a good time, just going out to dinner. We weren't really in the club so much as we were going out to dinner. But I remember thinking to myself that this was the only way that God can arrest my attention. I remember thinking it to myself. I remember that after I got down the road and I was in the bed and I had had surgery and I had gone through all the things that I had gone through, that my pain was for my purpose. The idea though was, but I didn't, at the time, I didn't understand what my purpose was. But I knew that there had to be a reason why God allowed me to go through what I went through in my life. Let me bring this full circle. The person that left you, the person that mistreated you, the person that made you feel bad and make you feel like you were less than, that was not the end of the story. It was a setup. It seemed like a setback, but it was a setup to bring you to a better version of yourself. It was difficult. It was hard. I know you went through a lot. I know it was painful, but I know that it was a setback. It felt like a setback, but what it really was a setup. It was a setup so God can arrest your attention. So God can have you pay more attention to what he's saying as opposed to doing whatever it is that you want to do. And I know that's harsh, but sometimes we don't get the lessons when everything is nice, warm, and fuzzy in our lives, when everything is good, when we're making all the money, when we got who we want in our lives or who we think we need in our lives. There is not a whole bunch of lessons in that for us. And what I learned is that everything that I've been through helped to cultivate and grow me into the woman that I am right now. I didn't have a standard before. I messed around, I talked to, I dated men that did not measure up for me. I didn't realize that every time somebody rejected me, I didn't realize it, that they was actually doing me a favor. It made me go into myself. It made me check who I was being. It made me make better choices in the long run. Now I didn't have all of my choices down and together. Like I still didn't. It took me a long time to kind of negotiate and navigate my way through this life to get to the place where I even wanted to begin to heal. Because I had to keep asking myself the question, why is this happening to me? And when you ask the question and you pray and you ask the question of God, God will slowly and methodically begin to reveal to you who you were called to be. He will begin to show you that you are the apple of his eye. God will begin to show you, and this is real talk, like what you were created for, right? That you're his daughter, right? Or you're his son. But it's important to understand this, that the things that we have experienced in our lives is not by accident, but by design. God wants to get the best out of us. And had I continued on the trajectory that I was on, I was hanging out with my friends. We would leave work on Friday night, head into the city. We would be at all the different restaurants. We would be doing all the different things, right? Having a good time, good, clean fun. Wasn't nothing crazy. No, I wasn't sexing nobody. We was just homeboys and homegirls. That's how I felt about it. I wasn't in a relationship with anybody. In fact, I was just separated from my husband and we was just hanging out and having fun. And it was a way for me to numb the pain. It was a way for me to hide what I was feeling. In fact, I needed to be in that arena. If I could be honest, I needed to be in that arena so that I can feel better, so I wouldn't wallow in my pain. So that I wouldn't wallow in my pain. Right. So at that particular juncture, me hanging out at One Fish, Two Fish, and Under the Stairs, and being up in Harlem with my friends, and being, we never was midtown. We was either all the way downtown or we was uptown. Right. Right. I forget the name of the spot we used to go to frequent in Harlem all the time. I can't remember. But the point I'm trying to get to, as I was running away, I was trying to fill an empty space in my life. And when I had that car accident, everything changed. I couldn't hang out with my friends anymore. God began to settle me down in my spirit. He began to reveal to me. He began to make me be still enough to hear his voice. So what I thought was a setback was actually a setup. And I didn't realize it at the time. I was bemoaning it. I was crying. I was depressed. I didn't feel good about who I was or where I was in my life. I mean, I went from going to baseball, taking my son to baseball every weekend and doing all the things to finding myself in the bed, not being able to move or function. Check this out. Every relationship is still the same. Every relationship is meant to grow us up. The things that we went through in our past were not meant to take us out, to make us stuck. It was meant for us to grab a hold of the lessons so that we would elevate. Hey, Mitch, I see you, my love. Hey, sister, I see you. It was meant for me to take a hold of the lessons and make different choices and change my life, to see myself better than I had been seeing myself. Because going through a separation and or a divorce will make you doubt who you are. It'll make you feel empty. Everything that you thought you wanted, every relationship that you've had made you doubt who you were. But God says, come and I'll give you. I'm going to show you who you are in my word. I need for you to pay attention to what has happened in your life. And I want you to elevate your mindset so that you never allow again those same things to happen in your life. And then I realized that I was on this trajectory for real in my life where I was always telling people what I didn't want. I really didn't know what I wanted because nobody had told me what to desire. What I desired and what I needed was in the word, but I wasn't checking for the word then. I was looking outside of myself at the world, trying to negotiate what God had given to me in his word and in my spirit. Like I thought I had things on lock, y'all. Everything, I had it all planned out, what my life was going to be. But I didn't know what I had was no good for me. What I had, even in a husband, was not what God wanted for me. In fact, I'm the one who said, I'm getting married. I didn't seek God's face for me. And no wonder I got my heart broken because I was making poor choices and decisions. And this is for every man and woman that may watch this, even on the replay, hashtag replay. And I'm telling you this because there are men and women that are walking around angry and frustrated that nobody loved them because they do not see what has happened as a blessing in their lives. They see it as you know, oh, they hurt me, they did this to me, they did this to me. Hey, Keish, I see you, my love. How are you? And they're angry and they're frustrated and they don't know how to treat another person right. Are you really loving them? Are they really in alignment with like your purpose and your gift and your calling that God has given you? And I was looking at everything as if my life was falling apart when the reality of the situation is it was coming together. My life was really coming. At the point I had the car accident, I did not know. Like when I couldn't walk, I was depressed. I had no idea. God said, no, settle down. Stop your shenanigans. Be still and hear my voice. And in the midst of all of that pain, I remember distinctly. I'm glad you're here, sis. I'm glad you're here. I remember distinctly understanding that my pain was for my purpose. I remember being 7 and 8 years old and fussing with my older sisters because they're so much older than me, telling them how to treat people, and it wasn't right. It's no wonder I'm a relationship coach. Like predestination, Ephesians 1, verses 4 through 12. Like, think about it. All things working together for our good, according who are called according to his purpose. Think about it. Think about it. Real talk. Because what happens is that we get caught up in what we want. And God has divine purpose for our lives. So when I think about relationships and the damage that has done, whether it is from your mother, your father, your cousin, I don't care what relationship it is. There is a lesson that you are to get and to understand. I remember one time talking to my cousin, right? Matter of fact, I ain't even want to talk about my cousin. I'm tell y'all for somebody else. She might watch it live. I don't want to offend her. I was talking. I remember one time talking to somebody who I knew was a gossip. And I knew that they was a gossip. And they can't hold water. And I was sharing something with them that was really intimate. Right? And I remember becoming hurt. Right? Because they went back and they said it to somebody else. And it was the truth. I wasn't lying. But they carried it back. And I remember being angry with them. But then I remember in the long haul, at the end of it, I became angry with myself because I knew better. Because I knew better. I knew better because I knew who they were. So the lesson in that for me, because we all need a lesson, right? The lesson in me for me is do not, when you already know, when a person shows you who they are, you already know what it is. Don't get crazy and think that you can, if you're having a moment, confide in them when you already know that they're gossipers. You already know that they're backbiters. You already know that they're going to run and go tell that. Right? So, so whose fault is that really? So I learned, Kim, shut up. Because in every relationship, there's a lesson. And so they left you and they didn't treat you right. And you were frustrated and you were hurt and you felt, mentally and emotionally and spiritually damaged. But guess what that was doing? That was telling you that you deserved better. What you thought was a setback was actually a setup for you to get your mind right, for you to start paying attention to what's important. So even in these relationships that we're having with these different people, it could be your boss, it could be a romantic interest, it could be, it doesn't matter, male or female, it doesn't matter. What are you learning from them? Don't just get angry. Don't just be hurt. Don't let them steal another day or your time or your attention. Don't let them do that to you. What I want you to do is I want you to get the lesson and I want you to own your part in it. I want you to grow so that you can become better. The problem in relationships today is everybody keeps pointing at the other person. And I'm telling you, I know that Michael Jackson wasn't the only one who said the man in the mirror, look at the man in the mirror. I know he wasn't. I know that that concept came years before Michael Jackson ever said a word. But we blame the men blame the women are blaming the men, and nobody is getting the lesson. I submit to you today that if you would change your mindset, if you would take responsibility and accountability for where you are in your life, the healing can begin. Y'all know, like, I've been doing this relationship stuff a long time. Even that's a setup. It's who I've always been. I've always cared about how we treat one another, how we love on one another. It's a little girl. And I realized a long time ago that it is my responsibility. It's my responsibility to stand up and to do the things that I'm called to do. I can't look outside of myself. You know, people, yeah, they did you dirty. Yeah, they did you dirty. Yeah, they talked about you and they made you the villain in the story. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. But were you? Did you pay attention? Do you take responsibility for where you are in your life? Because the moment you begin to do that is the moment your healing begins. And I know everybody don't want to hear that. Kim, no, because they was wrong, you know. And here's the thing. Truth, I only came to help one person today. I'm not here to help the masses. God sent me to help one person today. And the reason why I know that that's the truth is because most people don't want to hear anything about accountability or responsibility for their own lives. They just want to continue to place blame. The whole idea from Genesis to Revelation is that we would get our lives in order and understand that you're not an accident. What you've been through is not by accident, but it is by design to help to mature us and to grow us up. And I know this is not going to be a popular message. I know everybody doesn't want to hear this. I know they don't. Because who wants somebody to tell them, you know, get your life together? Nobody would. They're like, my life is together, Kim. You know what I mean? Kim, my life is together. Okay. But then we should be attracting differently, not settling for garbage. When we begin to recognize who we are, we begin to make different decisions and different choices. When we gain clarity around what we want our lives to be, we literally begin to set a different atmosphere, a different tone. We change who we deal with on a daily basis. There are some things I absolutely cannot participate in not because I'm better than anyone, but because my mindset is elevated to a place that I cannot participate with people who want to go to the corner store and drink a 40. Imagine that. Imagine that. Now, there was a time in my life when I would hang out with the people at the corner store and drink. You understand? When I was a kid, I did all sorts of things that my mother would have killed me for. But I'm not a kid anymore. I can't even process like that because now I know better. But I also know that there is a standard for our lives that God has. I also know that He's calling us to be greater. And once again, not better than anybody, because we're not, but that we would make better choices. I chose my husband. I chose him because I didn't have a standard. It doesn't make him a bad person. We've both grown up now and we on our way, but I didn't have a standard at the time. I didn't even know where to begin. I didn't even know at that particular time who I was. And everything that has happened from the time I started dating and hanging out with my friends and doing all the things that, teenagers and stuff do, everything has helped me to grow because I don't see it as a death to anything. I see it. I see new beginnings. I see lessons learned. I see accountability. I see responsibility. And I know all of us, people of color are not a monolith. There are little nuances that have gone on in our lives and different environments and our parents and how they raised us and all of that other stuff. But it doesn't matter where you started. It matters where you're going to end up. What do you want for your life? On May the 10th, I am hosting a workshop because I want to celebrate womanhood, healing, and resilience. And I'm having like all of these different activities, and Monique Denton is going to be a part of it, and she is going to be my MC. I absolutely love her. And we are going to have vendors there, and it's going to be a wonderful experience at Platterwish Park in Franklin Square. And so I wanted us to start over just like the springtime, to begin again. To begin again with a fresh new look, a fresh new perspective about who you are, your value and your worth and what you bring to the table. And consequently, I think I need to say this. I used to do events at like the EOC and stuff like that. And then someone said, Kim, your events are so dope. You need to do stuff at the Marriott. You got to go to a different venue. You don't need to be at the EOC. And there's nothing wrong with the EOC when you're starting out, but I'm past that now. So now we're having a luncheon, buffet style. And everybody there is grown and sexy, right? And in alignment and know what they want for their lives. They know they're ready to go higher. They know that they want something more and something different for their lives. And so I got this thing. I got it. I got it. I get the fact that what I thought was a setback was really a setup for my life. I get it. So that I can become the person that I am right now. And so when you think about all the hurt and pain and the different things that you've experienced in your life, I want you to see it through a different lens so that your healing can begin. And there's nothing wrong with owning your part in anything. There's nothing wrong with taking your power back. But as long as we sit in blame and hurt and pain, and it engulfs us and stops us from living full out authentically the way that God had intended for us to live, we are missing the mark. We are not in service because we are sitting there angry, upset, and frustrated. And we're not living our lives full out in the ways in which we should. And so I just wanted to pop on and talk about that today. I am going to be reopening up my class in the month of May that I was teaching. I shut it down for a little while. I needed it to fall back. But as a direct result, and that's an online class on Zoom, but as a direct result of this healing, we're going to dig into that because I think that that's important. Because it can't just be a one and done. Healing is an ongoing process. I'm still healing and working through some stuff. It might not be in the same place a lot of people are in, but I'm still working through some of the stuff that I've experienced. I remember, I think it was just last year that I realized that my father didn't abandon me. Like, how old am I? He ain't abandoned me, he died. Like, it's crazy, right? Because it was the lens through which I looked and the way in which I felt about what was going on. My father passed away. He did not abandon me. And I don't know where I got that from, but it stuck with me up until last year. And my father was this dope, amazing, incredible man, but I've always felt like I was an abandoned child. Don't ask me why I saw it like that, but that was nonsense. It was hogwash. And now that I've been delivered from that way of thinking, and like God spoke to me and healed me from that way of thinking, now I've changed. I no longer even have the baggage that goes along with feeling abandoned. Do you understand how easy it is to heal and work through your stuff when you are consciously aware of working through it? I'm not saying it's easy to heal through it because some of this stuff is hard. It's hard and it's painful and it will bring you to tears. But I would hope that they would not be tears of sadness, but they would turn into tears of joy because now you get to the point where you realize that what they thought was going to take you out actually was a victorious move on your part. That they were moving you to victory, whether you liked it or not. And it was a harsh circumstance to go through. But at the end of the day, you are victorious. They only can take you out if you never get back up. But if you decide, I want to heal and I want to throw off the sackcloth that has me, and feeling like I am in Lola and I don't feel good and I'm depressed and I got anxiety and when you're ready to take that off and show up strong for yourself, things begin to change. When you begin to see yourself the way that God sees you. So what, you made a mistake? So what, you made a poor decision? You don't have to stay there. You don't have to feel bad about that because we all made poor choices. We all failed forward. It's the failing and not taking that as a lesson learned and not moving forward that is the issue. I want us all collectively to begin to choose ourselves again and heal so we can get to where it is that we want and need to be. Listen, I love y'all like I love me some cooked food. I promise y'all I do. Y'all so dope. Y'all are dope. I love y'all. Listen, y'all come to the workshop. Come to the workshop. Get your tickets because tickets are limited. I only got so much space. Listen, I want y'all to be a part of this. It's going to be absolutely dope and amazing. I can't wait to see y'all there. It's May the 10th. It's the day before Mother's Day. There is going to be a celebration, but not only a celebration, right? But I want to talk about your healing and resilience. Yo, I don't think you know how dope you are. And I can say that. You've been hiding and afraid. But if you realize how amazing you are and what's underneath all of that stuff, and begin your journey to healing yourself, your life will change. That part. Y'all know I love y'all like some fried chicken. I promise y'all I do. I will talk to y'all later. Y'all be blessed. I'll see y'all. No, I won't see y'all tomorrow. I'm going to Good Friday service. I'm going to be right at Union Baptist. Yes, I am, because my pastor is giving one of those 7 last words, and I'm going to be in the building. Yes. So, but maybe I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a blessed day. All right. Bye-bye.